So just do me a favor and tell me why you're uncomfortable.
It's a big group. A lot of people.
Why is that relevant? Tell me again why that's relevant. If there are 500 people, would you be more uncomfortable?
It's relevant because it's the second time we're doing this and it's a different event. So it's new.
Do all things new make you uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. And why is that again? Tell me again. Why is that?
It's just new. It's fear of the unknown.
So with someone of your background, as an entrepreneur, as a commander, as a street thug, when you were little,
Yeah.
I mean, the long history of being in new situations, why in a group of 15, 18, 20 people that you really like, that are really smart, that are really focused on everything that you love and are really in this, I still want to understand, why are you uncomfortable right now? Because you are. And it's not the new, it's what else is it? What can you go just a little deeper?
More at stake.
What's at stake? That's really helpful.
In some ways it's nothing, and in all ways it's everything.
Is it what's at stake for them
So, like,
listening to you, or you talking to them?
Well,
or me talking to me?
There's nothing at stake because from what I can tell and see is that people are already working together.
Right.
But there's everything at stake because of the problem that we've already proposed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And is it?
And none of those problems that I've worked on previously were this much at stake.
And when you say this much at stake, you mean this gathering?
Yeah.
So you're uncomfortable in the state of the gathering, not the conversation.
No, I'm uncomfortable in, this is the most high stakes problem that I have encountered.
The uncomfortable truth.
Yeah.
And why? What is that? Well, let me back up. What is the uncomfortable truth? What do you mean?
I think for Counterparts?
Yeah, for you right now, before we describe what it is in the market and what it is and all that great stuff you said at the beginning, if you just go right to this moment with you and me, what is the uncomfortable truth? High stakes is not the uncomfortable truth.
Well, I've never benefited from comprehension. Not once.
In fact, you were judged for comprehension, right?
Yeah.
At the beginning. So take the next step. You've never benefited from comprehension. We've agreed this is an abstract space, but you're uncomfortable, even though we're in the space that you're comfortable in.
Right.
So what's the uncomfortable truth here?
Well, we can't ignore abstraction now.
Right.
And I don't want to fuck it up for every other abstractioner. Like, it's a lot.
Right.
It's like the first time it can't be ignored. So if we fuck it up as practitioners of abstraction, maybe that's the only path we had, then it's just going to get steamrolled.
So if this were
So there's a lot at stake.
If there was a really stupid interview that got so abstract and airy-fairy that everybody looked at here and thought, well, that was a 40 minutes flush down the toilet. Sure. The stakes are high because abstraction goes down the toilet with it. Is that fair?
For me, it feels that way.
Right. Right. So then how do we bring uncomfortable truth into our work? if we know that the stakes are that high, that this is a great place where you could actually soil the name of abstraction, or I could fail to realize I should be uncomfortable since I'm asking you the questions. I don't feel uncomfortable. I think the stakes are high. What makes us uncomfortable with a truth? Now you can go from me bigger into this. What makes us uncomfortable when there's a truth that is high stakes, or a truth that is unspoken, or a truth that is nobody wants to speak about it? How do we hold that uncomfortable truth?
I think if it's a truth, it becomes uncomfortable because once you know that it exists, you can't ignore it. So you have to decide which side you're on.
And how do you decide which side you're on?
How do I decide?
Yeah, how do you? Forget the world.
I think you know. And the action is the hard bit.
And the action is the saying it, the naming it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I was thinking about this subject and I was thinking about how ferocious you are about critique.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is a profound objection in your life, critique. You've been critiqued heavily. You're still critiqued heavily. You're often critiqued for naming uncomfortable truths.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between critique and an uncomfortable truth? When I say an uncomfortable truth, I may be saying something that actually says, you're out of your skin,
right,
because you're uncomfortable in front of your allies.
Mm-hmm.
That could be an uncomfortable truth. What's the difference between that and the critique of?
I think your critique is one way. What are you going to do about it? And an uncomfortable truth is, that's the truth. What are we going to do about it?
Right. So the uncomfortable truth is the battlefield of I and we.
Yeah. But I would also say I hate critique so much because I completely critiqued people into oblivion.
You're a reformed critiquer.
Well, I got critiqued, and so I was like, I'm going to critique the fuck out of everyone else as soon as I get in charge.
Right.
That's what I did, and it doesn't work. It just leads to resentment.
So if that's the history of...
That's why it's uncomfortable.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Because you moved in critique.
Yeah.
And you were often right.
Sure.
And so that rightness...
At the time, maybe.
Yeah. At the rightness at the moment gave you the power to be full of critique. And therefore people said, you're a bully, you're pushy, you're I have to do what you're saying.
Yeah, to the next level. Like the military would say, you need to have something for this person to improve on, critique. And so rather than doing that, because that annoyed me, I then critiqued their form. Your form's wrong.
Right.
Right. Which is sort of the crazy mega boss of critique when you think about it.
Yeah, the form's wrong. You meant the form of the military form.
Their form's wrong, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you not then take a critique and transform it into an uncomfortable truth?
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't think that way at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just interested in this uncomfortable truth, how we get at the uncomfortable truth. We see something, we see an injustice, something we don't like, something that people won't name, something that's in the room that's unnamed.
Mm-hmm.
We're encouraging ourselves to speak the uncomfortable truth.
Mm-hmm.
How do we navigate the line between there's something wrong with your form and there's something wrong with you, soldier? I mean, where is the line between critique and uncomfortable truth? Because my view of the system might be that it's broken. Your view of the system might not be that it's broken. Mm-hmm. How do I hear your uncomfortable truth without thinking you're critiquing me?
Well, you give space after you name it.
Can you say more about the one way? Because it's also tied into one way, isn't it? In the uncomfortable truth, there is an explicit two-way piece there or not?
Yeah. I think, but you have to give the space to allow people to make a choice. So.
And when you're as impatient as you are, how do you make the choice? I mean, how do you give people space? You're an impatient, what the fuck, get going, let's go. How do you manage your own impatience?
Barely.
Barely. Yeah.
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 Right. I like to ask a question to keep me safe, which is like, how does it sit with you?
Yeah. And when you feel them ducking that question, oh, that's good. Feels, yeah, what you say is right. That's fair. You're going to go because the uncomfortable truth, as now another one has appeared.
Yeah, sure.
You're going to go after that one,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to duck it or sidestep it, and you're going to come again.
Mm-hmm.
How am I not going to feel that you are critiquing me?
I'll name my doubts first.
All right, that's one. That's good. What other tricks of the trade here for the critic? Gone
Mm-hmm.
global. What's the name? What you said? Name it. Right.
Name your like I name my doubts.
Yep.
If you think I'm certain in the truth, well, these are the doubts I had.
So you go first.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
You have to be the optimist.
Do you have a problem with optimism?
Of course, yeah.
Why is that?
Because you're right like 99 times, you're wrong 99 out of 100 times.
Right.
And everyone else is right. And they are right. That's annoying, especially if you're urgent.
Right.
Right.
But the one time, I get the 99, but the one time you're right, it seems to me that an uncomfortable truth is mighty safe ground for that one time.
Yeah, we don't know. You might feel relief. That's generally when you know a truth is something that's in the room.
Right.
But you might be wrong 99 times.
Right.
But the one time matters.
And how do you know you're wrong? Because they come back and explain to you that the uncomfortable truth you see is not accurate?
If it's not a real truth that's not being called out, there's no relief.
Right.
So.
Right. So, but you're not saying that 99 times out of 100, when you call out an uncomfortable truth, there's no relief, because you get a lot of relief from people who say, fuck, he's saying what I believe. There are so many people who will respond to the fact that in a call or in a meeting or in a moment, you will name that uncomfortable truth. It's at the center of your program. Mm-hmm. You must sense that relief is more common than 99, one time out of 100. It works for you.
But for that uncomfortable truth, the other 99 I was wrong.
So can you give me an example?
There were different problems.
Give me an example of a really, really passionate, uncomfortable truth that turned out to be wrong.
Leaders eat last.
Say more.
There's a mindset in like combat units of like Australian, American, but not British, that the commander has to eat last. And it's like, we got to make sure everyone's fed. And it was like this vivid sort of practice. And so you sit there and you watch all these people waiting for the soldiers to eat. And it's supposed to sort of create this sort of culture of the commanders aren't above the men and women, right? And it feels good. Like, it feels really good. It's like, look at me, I'm eating last. You know. Now go run into that machine gun because I ate last. Sort of a crazy idea. And then I was working with the British, and they don't eat last. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, I got really angry about it. And one of the senior soldiers comes up to me. He goes, yeah. He goes, younger armies have that problem. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, aren't we in your army? And he's like, yeah, but you're not really. And he's technically right, because the Australian army isn't royal, but the units are royal, right? That's how they get around that nuance. But he goes on to say that, we used to do that. And then we realized that, he goes, have you noticed how more optimistic our commanders are when things go wrong? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, the British eccentric officer that Lawrence of Arabia, like the guy, I'm like, yeah, they're really optimistic. He's like, yeah. He goes, what we realize is that, like, your most creative people, they just need their own fucking room. We don't want those idiots in here. We need them to go be creative so they get more and more creative. So that one moment we need a completely abstract decision.
They're ready.
They're just abstract. And if they're sitting in here with us, then they become like us. And he goes, that's sort of good. He goes, the other one's just better. And so that was a huge uncomfortable truth for me, because it wasn't about
the optics of leadership.
It wasn't about respecting. It was about doubling down on the strengths of something we learned hundreds of years ago and enabling a ritual that allows that to happen.
Right.
Yeah. And so they're just super happy. Like, they walk around. All the Australian and US commanders were always angry, resentful. And these British guys and girls are walking around with weird canes, jackets, looking like they're at Hogwarts. It was just this. And then they get in these disastrous situations and like this really complex situation. And you just hear like this British voice on the radio be like, yeah, I think we're going to be okay, Like, do you need anything? And the answer would be like this long pause. And you'd be like, maybe. And that maybe would just quieten like 1,000 people that were worried about something. Whereas an Australian or an American got on was like, I need it now or we're going to go. And they would just be like, maybe. And that was the only difference in all of our rituals, was that after all the time I did with all the work with them, after being told leaders eat last this whole time, I was like, oh, that was wrong.
So have you applied that to Counterparts? I mean, are you a leader who eats last at Counterparts, or do you go off to your room?
Oh. Physically?
I mean, I'm asking you as your partner. Are you still operating on the theory that leaders eat last, or have you got...
Oh, no, not at all. I switched in the moment. I was like, I want to be the maybe guy, or girl. Like, I've never seen anything
I know you want to be. I'm asking you as a guy who is creating a process where a program where the uncomfortable truth becomes, we'll talk about it in a second, a passkey to more.
Mm.
Can we just stay on the facts of this particular uncomfortable truth and say, are you acting as a British leader in Counterparts or an American leader?
Well, I would say in every business I've had so far, I'd have to be the hero. I don't think I'm the hero in this business.
Right.
I think it's a guide. I feel like that's more
British.
I think, yeah. I'm not waiting for people to eat either, so.
Right.
Technically,
I mean, I would name an uncomfortable truth right now in saying, I think you, because consistently eat last.
Yeah. That's not good.
Your we go, you go
Mhm.
is incredibly important. It's a dynamic engine of this. And I see you sometimes hungry when you should be well fed
Mm.
because you're wanting to make sure you get everybody over the hump. Now, that is my sense of an uncomfortable truth. Why don't you receive it as critique? Because you don't right now.
Oh, that feels like a bit of relief.
Yeah. So what do we know about an uncomfortable truth and relief? What is the relief about?
I didn't think of it that way.
I mean, is it fair to say that the presence of an uncomfortable truth that allows you to look at it and say, I didn't think of it that way, and the relief that follows positions us to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper? Because I named it.
Mm-hmm.
You felt the relief. You didn't assess it, didn't judge it, you didn't argue. You just noticed that you felt the relief. And your whole manner just sort of dropped a little bit into your body. Just that moment, you just went. Mm. Is that an example of what you're talking about in the brutal business of partnership, in the work that all of us were talking about in our breakouts, about conversations that need to be had, things that need to be said? Is relief a guide for us? That when it's said and the relief is visible or detectable, that you've named an uncomfortable truth that's landed?
Absolutely.
And when it lands as a critique, what's the strategy for pulling out of the critique for them? Because they're defensive, they're defended. You've just said that there's this uncomfortable truth is actually going to disempower me. I'm the VP in charge of this. I want to slow this proposal down. I want to get more in the meeting. How do you convert that critique into relief? I've declared my opposition to you. I don't like it. I don't like that you've critiqued me or my company or my view of the market.
Right.
How do you bring me to the relief of being able to go,
I think the first thing that I try is if that's happened, there's probably a lot more I don't know or I've missed.
Yeah.
So asking people to say more is probably the first point of call.
Yeah.
And then if there's still no relief, because there might just be more things that need to come out, that they need to get off their chest,
Right.
for example, I've actually got to join their side and be like, well, what if what you're saying is true and everything that we understand about what we understand is entirely wrong? So what happens then if that's the case? So, yeah, I think you have to flip the position to what they're saying is actually the uncomfortable truth.
Right. And so are you then saying, if you have to argue on behalf of an uncomfortable truth, it's not one?
Yes.
And you also are saying that
you've taken an easier one. It's
Yeah.
not the ultimate one.
It's not the ultimate one. And so your ability to ask questions, your ability then to join their side, is the uncomfortable truth that you might have been sitting on, an insufficient uncomfortable truth. Why are these Brits eating in another room?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that gets to the issue of the ready mind, right? Wisdom is the ready mind. If you are going to be the deliverer of an uncomfortable truth and you're a zealot, you're in trouble.
Yes. Yep. You have to be a learner, I think.
Right.
I think they'll feel it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then when the relief is there, is that the space when co-working starts? Or is that the end of a process that gets you? Is it the end of a process or the beginning of one?
It's the end of one and the beginning of another.
Right. And what's the beginning?
It's now, well, it's like an inventory of the skills that you need in order to build more belief to take the step into shared work.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So knowing that we're down to
shared learning, I would say.
Shared learning as a precursor to shared work.
Yes.
In the interest of time, because I know we're running out of time, how do I muster the chutzpah to name an uncomfortable truth when I don't know whether it will be received as critique or as relief? How do I make myself name that uncomfortable truth?
Commit to volume.
Say more. Volume means what?
You're going to do it 100 times at the start before you stop doing it.
The same uncomfortable truth, naming the same one, you mean?
Yeah,
No.
like
Right.
you just have to commit to volume. Volume negates luck. So you're in the game of finding another optimist or someone that maybe was optimistic but has been through too much. And
because once you find the relief, you're finding a tribe.
Yeah.
A counterpart.
I think, the only way you can prepare yourself for it is there's a volume. I have to do it this many times. It's going to be uncomfortable, probably 99 times more than the one. So I'm just going to commit to doing it at least 100 times.
So that's a beautiful way to finish. The 99 times isn't that you were wrong. The 99 times is that you were not received.
Yes.
There was no relief.
Yeah.
The one time isn't that you were that one time right. The uncomfortable truth, if it's a real uncomfortable truth, it's true. But it doesn't mean that your counterpart always is able to see that truth.
Right.
But when they feel the relief, you have discovered the common ground, which is vital to the work.
Yeah, like so, in that situation with the British, there was probably 45 other Australian and American commanders, and just 2 of us went over afterwards and just said, "Hey, what are you fucking weirdos up to?" We joined them. So that means the rest of them heard the same thing
and didn't
act on it.
Right.
Whereas I was like locked in, and the guy that just saw me do it, he's like, "I'm coming with you. Let's go. Yeah, let's see what happens."
That's good.
Yeah. So I think.
So as a way of summarizing, if you were to offer your colleagues that you're now no longer uncomfortable in front of at all, if you were to offer them one encouragement around the power of the uncomfortable truth, what would it be? It's not a party trick.
A parting trick or a party?
It's not a party trick. It's not like, hey, name the uncomfortable truth. That really gets you somewhere with your counterpart. No, we know that it's a serious business. 99 times out of 100, we don't get the relief. You could look like a fool. You could look like you don't know what you're doing. You could actually, pass gas in a very polite room by naming it. You risk being ostracized. Why do it?
I think it's your duty to.
And the duty is to what?
The vision. You can't. If you see it as a task, you're going to get burned out. If you see it as a trick, you're going to get found out. If you see it as a critique or a one-way direction, you miss the opportunity for someone to start their own epic journey. So you miss the moment for encouragement. and belief. And so the only way you can actually do it repeatedly in an authentic manner is that it is your duty to declare the uncomfortable truth. Otherwise, nothing can begin.
That's it. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think what's really interesting about all of us knowing that we have to think about the way we ask questions and the way we have not had one word about this conversation ahead of time. It was just like I could have been on the other end of the telephone with a stranger. I had no idea in some ways what the conversation was going to be about. And the only thing that I would if this is the moment to sort of talk about what just happened, you know, I have a friend who's a really talented novelist, and writers also always come to her and ask her about the book they're writing. And she only asks them one question. Tell me the first line of the book. And she will only really talk to the 2 out of 10 who immediately recite the first line. Because what she's really trying to say is the first line of the book is where it starts. And so when you're thinking about interviewing someone, you think about the first question, and you're going to change that question 15 times. He got up, gave his overview, and I'm like, oh shit, wait a minute. Because my job isn't to trick him or to manipulate him or to get him to tell me what I need to know. My job is to create the space for him to teach me. And so that first question has to be a combination of generosity and challenge. It has to be both. If it's just challenge, then the signal is you're in a hostile place. You know, get yourself ready. Now that's not going to happen because he knows me, but it's still possible. He's still wary, uncomfortable because he doesn't know where I'm going to go. So his discomfort is legit. But the moment the first question, there is an intention to suggest that this is genuinely asking. I'm genuinely asking the question. I don't know the answer. If I think I have an answer to that question, I can't ask it because it's disingenuous and you're a liar. You're a manipulator. If I start to archive the things that he said that I don't agree with, that I can come back around and whack him on, I'm a manipulator. At a certain point, I think we were talking about this with trust. There's a certain point when you interview where you're going to discover as an interviewer just how trustworthy you are. Because if you're working an angle because you want to get something, you want to extract from him the wisdom, the big moment. You want Andy to be standing, grinning in the back going, yes, we got it. You know, if that's the name of the game, I'm going to fail. You have to start with that deep curiosity that says, what does he need in order to teach me what he knows? And when he says something that throws you, like when he said, I'm uncomfortable, that was where it started for me. I was really surprised because I know him and I know what he's capable of and how he moves in the world. But when he said, I'm uncomfortable, he was giving me a bid. He was, in fact, in an odd way, saying, start with that. Even though he'll tell you, I didn't want you to start with that. Right. I mean, when I went there, you were uncomfortable for the first 5 minutes.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you were not unsafe.
No.
And I think your job as an interviewer is to keep people safe. And you don't keep them safe by loving them. You don't keep them safe by praising them. You don't keep them safe by handling them. You keep them safe by being present and asking questions that are real. And I think one of the things that everybody in this room is doing today at a level that we just did not see, I've not seen in the earlier one I was at, and I missed both of the other one, but the capacity for all of you to make safe space so that hard things can be looked at, it's very high skill. People sit down and they say right where they are. And they might say even at the same time, I'm uncomfortable with that. And I don't see people critiquing. I've only heard once someone say, well, I disagree. And that was just because we were moving too fast. It doesn't mean we aren't all disagreeing, but the safety is very high. And that means the presence is high. So as an interviewer, you don't think about your next questions. You don't think about how it's going. You don't think about where the camera is. You don't think about what's this going to look like. You don't think, oh, that's a good one. That'll play well. You stay in the moment and try to go as uncomfortably as you can. And part of what was hard for me in doing this and why I don't think I did as good a job as I would have liked was that I sounded abstract. I kept wanting to kind of hone in, but my language kept floating up. And I had to kind of keep whipping myself back to him, because when my language is floating up, I'm not interviewing him anymore. I'm in my head. So as interviewers, stay out of your head. And that is because there's no profit in that space. Andy's not filming my head. He's the star of the show. But I can block him. I can stop him. I can hold him up. I can distract him. I can get him going off on sidebars. You'll find that you'll take an angle of approach on something and you'll see that it's taking them off the rails. Shift. You don't have to kind of find a narrative form. Just change the question. Go. I can't remember the moment. If I look at it, I'll try to look at it and parse it in a written document for everybody, because you can look at those moments where you can see that I'm just like, well, shit, this isn't going to take him where he wants to go. It's taking him where I'm taking him. So I've lost the thread. So start again. Start again. And when you don't understand something, come back in. I don't get it. I'm sorry to be dense, but tell me why this is. And when you think you know better, as he said, I mean, think about that for a minute. You bring the uncomfortable truth, and then you find out, say a little bit more, and then you join their side? Are you shitting me? When I brought an uncomfortable truth that I thought was gospel, commanders eat last, that's what I was trained in. It makes me feel good. I stand up there and I realize I'm the kind of leader, I'm starving hungry, but my men know I'm the kind of leader that's going to eat last, which he does in Counterparts to his own detriment. Often. That ability to take his story and ask the question, do you do that in Counterparts? Actually, even though it's uncomfortable, he's safer. Because now, no, I don't think I do. Well, I see you do it a lot. So what is that? You out now all have the basis for a conversation with him that says, what does it mean that you don't eat last? How come you don't eat last? What does not eating last look like in Counterparts? There's a basis for a future conversation. That's as valuable as whatever they're filming, right? The nature of the conversation is sacred. And that's the only thing I would leave you in terms of technique. Like every gathering, every meeting can become a gathering. Every conversation can become sacred. And yes, it feels sometimes that it goes into the psychological, or it goes into the spiritual, or it goes into all the words that people who are practical and think in terms of revenue and think in terms of deals, think in terms of scale and think in terms of success, and sometimes see themselves in the vision, will push away as being esoteric. It's not esoteric. And it's so interesting to me that the critique that I always get is, I know when people are going to roll their eyes, and they always do. My best colleagues are like, oh, fuck, Kemp. But for me, it feels real. And so the good news is you help me be more real. He helps me be real. He'll say, as he did earlier this morning, to make it more practical, so always be ready to hold yourself to a higher standard in the interview than him. Always make sure, are you as present as possible? Are you saying it as clearly as possible? Keep the pressure on yourself to submit to your interview. It's not your ego. And if you see yourself in the interview, you're already left. You already quit your interview. So keep focused on their well-being. And if they're unsafe, name it. I think I've asked you a question that I think you seem really uncomfortable right now. That may sound like it's the beginning of but actually, so long as they look at your affect and realize, no, you're just worried that you took them off the rails, they might say, no. Look, I don't really like talking about this, but it's a fair question. And then all you can do is screw the interview up by getting in the way. There will be a point at which you don't have to say anything. And the finish, look at him at the finish. Another word from me would have been a sin. So just keep your eye on yourself, just like you do when you're talking to your counterparts here in the meetings. Notice your own internal state.
Can we practice some noticing for a second?
Yeah, go.
Could you just bring up the guide? And I just want to see if people recognize what's in the guide, if they notice how you said it.
Right, and because I didn't use the language that...
No, you're fine. You're doing great. If we just go to that, the interview prep, third time's the charm.
I should have done it in this.
That's okay. You did it. I'm gonna see if everyone noticed. Go down. Just on the first counterpart framework ritual that Kemp has, which is the pre-interview, which is you're not, remove all the bias. Did anyone notice what is an example of how Kemp started or what he said that made you felt like Kemp had no bias as an interviewer?
He was just trying to explore where you're at.
Right. What did he say? What did you say to me?
Why do you feel like this? How does this make you feel? So he took himself out of the equation.
Okay, great. Anything else that made you feel like he had no bias? What he did? Anything else you noticed?
He didn't try to steer you into questions towards where he wanted you to go. He let you kind of steer it.
Right.
The first 2 or 3 questions were on the idea of uncomfortable, like what it means for you. He asked that question 3 different times to start the interview.
Well, he also didn't say, I know you. I know, it wasn't about,
right?
He wasn't challenging, I know you, letting you just answer the question, answer the repeated question, answer the repeated question.
He's heard you say that the word uncomfortable, probably for 8 months, right? Or a year or 2 years. But this interview was he was hearing it for the first time.
It felt like I was.
Yeah.
Exceptional.
It felt like I was. Wait, can I just ask a question? Why did it feel like it? Why did it feel? Again, it wasn't a technique. It felt like I was. I was startled by uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. I was genuinely startled.
You startled me back by being startled.
Yeah.
I was like, what the okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, it was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, well, me too. Yeah.
So I guess you could say that is an indication of no bias. I am biased all the time, but I didn't feel biased in that moment. That's a fair point. That's really helpful.
I have a question. I don't know if it's helpful, but when Kemp, the way you ask these initial questions, it's almost like you're starting from a blank slate. And I wonder if you just had a lot of life experience where you've had to start from a blank slate in hospice or journeys with Native American. Are there how did you get so good at just like, I'm just gonna meet, like you started the interview right where Tom left off and you just like met him where he was. Blank slate is what it felt like.
Aren't you guys blank slating each other all the time here today? I mean, this morning we had a conversation. It started between two of us. The third came in, the fourth came in, the fifth came in. We didn't narrative reframe. We didn't stop. Everybody was a blank slate, but we created a sacred space. I think it's the ability to be present, which everybody in this room has.
Yeah.
So we went in and said, what are you noticing? We asked our team, what are we noticing about you all? You know what Tom said? They can do it all.
Yeah.
And I think the blank slate's a good example of that.
One observation I'm making from all of us as founders, maybe within the small group we get in our heads about these very important meetings that are coming, and we don't show up as blank slates in a high stake 7-figure deal, and we forget that starting moment.
Yeah.
So I almost feel there's like a ritual we should probably create as a community around like, how do you? There it is.
This is Kemp's ritual on how he strips his bias out.
Yeah.
And how we did this is we just asked Kemp the question and he just started speaking free flow for like 20 minutes and we got the first one out of him. And if we come down a little bit, his ritual is really simple. If you scroll up just a little bit more, just for the top of it, you ask yourself, you write a list of every question you want to ask in your interview. Right? Here is every question I would like to learn from the person I'm interviewing. And then you ask yourself of every question, why do I want to ask this question? And where you end up is questions designed to lead you to a perspective that you already hold, and questions where you don't know the answer but you want to learn. And you literally cut out all of the first ones. You just cut them out.
It's brutal because it's basically 3/4 of your list.
Yeah.
And really brutal.
Yeah.
And you sort of negotiate with yourself. Well, yeah, I know the answer to that, but it sets up what I don't know.
Yeah. So they all just have to go, but you have to write them down that way. And you could do that for a meeting, like in a sales process, you could do that if you want. But in the doing an uncomfortable truth interview, this is his practice, and I think it's pretty simple in nature, and that's why it's extremely effective. Yes.
So the interview was super interesting and obviously was done very well. How do you reconcile this natural, engaging approach with the fact that we're creating social objects for advertisement purposes?
Yeah.
And maybe it's you get on a subject that has nothing to do with your business, and you're like, well, I didn't get the things that I thought I needed.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile those?
They're not the same thing. I've never described a social object as an advertisement. I've described them as a market voice and a gathering point that builds tribal energy. There's no CTA other than join the conversation on a social object. On an advertisement, there can be all different types of CTAs.
The advertiser scripts the advertisement and gets it ready, knows exactly where it has to go. The social object, if you notice how when it's being created, the one taking the film knows when they've got it.
Right.
And what they've got is not the advertisement, they've got the truth.
Right. And so the advertisements generate leads. A social object changes your position. They're different things. Now, you might have someone attracted to the social object and then ask what you do and become a lead. And there is a network effect of that. And so that's why we do it. But the predominant reason they exist is to start and hold the conversation, and the other one exists to attract someone ready to buy. But you can never reconcile them if you consider them both advertising. You have to consider them different tools of marketing for completely different outcomes. Yeah.
Just to follow on from that really good question,
Uh-huh.
how do you feel about stealing and pillaging from those interviews where you get that amazing line, that amazing knowledge bite that fits into your
Sure.
sales channel, and you sort of present it in an interesting way, and you have this little sound bite or voice bite or video bite or just some text and summary. That's kind of doing both, I guess, at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's not though, because they have different asks at the start and the end of them.
Yeah.
And so you can definitely take any piece of content that you've been exposed to, as long as your character stays the same. So, but I would say there is risk in that if you try to change characters. So if you go from visionary to salesperson back to visionary,
Then the visionary,
won't work.
the salesperson absolutely destroys the visionary.
but if you say, hey, here is our offer, and one of the reasons I'm so excited by this offer is because of this interview I just had, and that's made me even more committed to the vision. Sure, that can generate leads and generate interest, but you're still the same voice. Just be careful in changing the voice, and don't trade off a short-term voice for a long-term one you just gained. Okay, that's the first ritual. The second ritual is the disrupt. And so this is when you break your own pattern mid-interview. The problem this solves is you can get lost in the conversation, okay, because it's enjoyable, or maybe it's not, but you get lost. And without realizing it, you start telling the story you already told 100 times, same setup, same anecdote, same framing. You stop asking and you start performing. The market leader senses it and checks out. So the person you're interviewing checks out. And then, so when people say that's really engaging, this is this is how you keep it really engaging. And the pain underneath it is when an interview goes on autopilot, the interview feels like it's performative and the attention in the room collapses. So the ritual, this is Kemp's ritual. There's another 20 minutes of pure free flow excellence that we've got here. Is the disrupt. Ask the opposite of what you just said. Did anyone notice when Kemp asked the exact opposite of what he just said in that interview? And if you did, let us know.
I mean, he just finished explaining why he'd had this great learning of the uncomfortable truth of the commander eats last. And the thing that interested me is, why would you do that? Why would you risk that? Was an attempt to go counter to the flow of, I had this big learning, I became a different kind of commander, it all went well. I really wanted to know why would you risk that? Looking like a fool, looking like somebody who's not in sync, or you're junior. It is that it's to stop me from being seduced by the beauty of what he'd said, which was great. But I was also heading into the place where he was the new kind of commander who went into the room. I was sort of following him. I wasn't helping him say what he wanted to say. So I think we are always, as interviewers, we're always seduced by narrative. And our job is to, I wrote a book about POWs in World War II, and you would get the stories when you would interview them, and you would get these really polished stories, really polished. And there was no scent on them. There was no sweat on them, no truth, nothing. They were fabulous stories because they'd been told 55 times. But then when you say to that same storyteller after they're finished, did you ever have any dreams in the camp? Nobody had ever asked them that before. And they did have a dream about their sister. Yeah. And it nearly broke them. So you're going counter, you're disrupting your own, by sort of flipping the narrative.
I think if you didn't notice when Kemp did that, did you notice where I literally had to pause and think about it? I was disrupted. And so there was probably three there. I was like, oh God, I got it. I'm going to be careful how I answer this, and like I better think about this because I'm going to answer this and not think about it, and I had to stop myself. That was me getting comfortable and then getting brought back out of the uncomfortable again. So if you do this well, you're actually the person that you're talking to will pause and really think about what is it you just asked me, because I was expecting a new question, but I wasn't expecting that question.
And 100% of the time, that silence, the next sentence is going to be pure gold. So don't say a word. Yeah, Caleb.
It's the one question I have is around balancing letting the interviewee guide a conversation with sort of holding the thread. Is it just like literally, Joe Rogan style, let's talk about whatever? Or do you at some point try to,
I think
back to your topic?
I think the topic was it was a good thing for me to be looking at the uncomfortable truth behind his head, because every moment it made me realize, especially with a good storyteller, very perilous, because they just will take you into la la land. I think you got to come back to, how is this the uncomfortable truth? How do we use it? How do you know? You get to pull a question from out of nowhere. They know they're being interviewed. They're not going to be annoyed with you for suddenly saying, after they've just delivered a kind of Gettysburg Address, that you then come back and say, do you wear shoes when you walk in the mud? They're going to allow you to do that. But for your sake, you want to remember that your audience is wondering, but does the guy wear shoes out there? So yeah, keep coming back to the narrative thread whenever you can. And I lose the narrative thread because, that's where I'm not a skilled interviewer, because I love dialogue. So you're naming the thing that I'm working on, which is bring it back.
I like what you did, because you kind of took one question and you asked it probably 10 times. For an interview where you're really trying to gather in-depth knowledge about something that they are actually really knowledgeable about and good at, how many real questions do you typically feel comfortable with going in? Is it like 1 or 5 or 50?
I think you're ready with 10. You're likely going to use 2. And the repetition of the question is a really important device, because you're really trying to hone in on, it's not enough. It's not good enough. There's more here. Can you say more? Very crucial line. Why is that? What's the consequence of that? What are we not looking at? There's so much I didn't do in this interview, but I think you want to remember that the core spine that Caleb's asking, those spinal questions, there are probably only 3 of them. And then the rest are just the ribs that come off those spines. And you have to be ready to do that. Now, if for some reason they run through your 3 questions and they're brilliant, you need to be ready in case they go. But generally, your interviewee is going to inhabit those spines and fill out the body for you.
So you need to really prioritize that.
Right.
The first one, especially.
Right. Particularly.
Yeah, and you could take the same model and apply it to a sales process. I mean, I just want to learn this one thing.
Yeah.
And it creates the same environment.
Nothing is more destructive to an interview or a sales pitch. Nothing's more destructive than the next question that does not deeply relate to what was just said, because then it's transactional. Then you've got an agenda. And so if you ask a second question in either interview or in the sales, make sure that it feels like a narrative path that we're all on together. And a good trick is to say, I think I just got lost. I was so interested in what you said. Where are we in this discussion about how Imagine Learning can, whatever it is, right? That ability to call the collective back is really crucial. And I think that's sort of what we
All right.
yeah, in the back, sorry.
So going into the interview, what is the person you're interviewing, how's the frame coming in relation to the uncomfortable truth?
Meaning, how do you as the interviewer tell the interviewee that what you want or what it's about?
Yeah, like you're inviting them on, and then how are you framing it?
I mean, I think you'll have your market answer. I will just say from an interview's answer, you always want to try to name what it is that you think you're interested in and why they're very, very skilled at answering questions that people have. You've worked with uncomfortable truth in your program for years. I want to just talk to you about why it might be important, how you know where it is. You know, you give them a flyover of the big vision for the conversation. Never the questions and never the directions, just the big vision of what your magic wand would be, is an open, interesting conversation about something that's really important to you and you understand it very well. But you might have a more specific practical answer to that.
Yeah, it's the same thread, but if you were like, I need to remember to do something, it's you tell someone something you noticed about them that makes you intrigued to learn more. And then you say, I'd like to go further on this uncomfortable truth and get your perspective based off what I noticed. And so you, in order to actually create a learning interview, you have to declare that you want to learn more based off what you've already noticed about them, because it puts the person in a really comfortable spot. It's like, you know, we're interviewing people just like you about this uncomfortable truth, and we're perfectly placed. And the reason I think you're perfectly placed is I saw this, I saw what you wrote, I saw what you said, I saw what you said on stage, and I've just got so many questions just on what you said.
And you're telling them that this is the uncomfortable truth we want to go
Yeah,
further on.
yeah, you name
But
it.
you're not asking questions to bias them into.
No, you're just telling them why you've noticed about what they've already said, so they feel compelled that they're not getting ambushed. It's like, no, like, why are you interested in me is still a really important part that you should address.
I mean, you're onto a really great thing here, because the thing that I was going to say was that in the interview process, you have to really have your ego in check. So when they're a teacher, you got to be a student. But when they're a teacher at the expense of the presence, you have to be a peer. So you have to move between submission and challenge. And in the beginning, when you're inviting them into that dialogue, you can talk to them as a teacher, but you have to also demonstrate that you're not a student. Does that make sense? You have to demonstrate that, saying, let me tell you why this is really important. Founders really wrestle with this. That's not a student talking to a teacher. That's the peer talking to the interviewee, saying, you need to understand why this is really important.
How many of the questions that are drafted up are connected directly to the uncomfortable truth?
Well, in this instance, because I think he's wily and tricky, I didn't write any questions down except, you hate critique. What's the difference between an uncomfortable truth and criticism? I knew that all I had to do was get one question out, and then I was just trapping the fox, because he was going to move and move and move and still look like he wasn't moving at all. And that's his gift.
Cheeky fucker.
And so, he's acting kind of like I'm a thoughtful, quiet guy, but meanwhile, the camouflage is going up. He's foxing around
I felt hunted. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
But that's it. But the hunting leads to something like the last 30 seconds, which is just pure gold. So I think your point is, you do want the questions for sure, but as soon as you've got a fox, a really smart interview, toss your questions and just focus exactly on what they're saying. Most of the time, your interviewees are not going to be that smart. So the questions will be good, useful, and they'll relate to one another, and you'll get the stuff, and it'll be nice, and it'll be good. But what you're playing for is magic. And the magic you get really in the end when you throw the questions away.
Right. Okay. Cool. Let's go to the last ritual. So ritual number 3 is the close. It's about keeping the conversation going. The problem it solves is most interviews end and nothing happens. The founder thanks, the leader sends a polite follow-up, and the relationship sort of dies. The learning stays trapped in your notebook. You try to get out in your newsletter, but you haven't solved the problem of a wasted conversation. So the pain underneath it, a wasted conversation is worse than no conversation. So sit with that for a second. The leader gave you their time and you returned nothing of value to them. So the ritual that Kemp uses is name the thinking with an example, point to a specific moment in the conversation where their thinking shifted yours, name the power of why in this interview, tell them why their voice in particular mattered, and before they say their last words, you frame what you heard and name the key learning. You saw the end Did anyone want to describe what they noticed? Did they see this ritual? If so, what did they see?
I definitely heard Kemp say that what he was taking away from something, he was going to be thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So gave value, personal value for what he did.
I got value.
Mhm.
I mean, who in this room isn't going to remember about the commander eating last? It's a very vivid example.
Yeah.
By the way, at first I thought you were saying commanders equal ass.
Yeah.
Eat glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Founders eat glass.
Yeah.
The main diet.
I mean, the last
Did-
point.
Just,
sorry.
Just did everyone notice how Kemp made me name the lesson at the end, like right at the end? He's like, "Could you and then he held me to account, like he didn't let me get away with just the easy name. He made me explain the power of it. Like I had to still. I did the frame, and he's like, "Well, that's not enough." And then,
He also invited everyone to talk to you
yeah,
about what we learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
I think that point you just raised is the last point, which is what a good wedding or a good funeral does is that it creates a sustaining note that everyone will be able to summon in their mind. They'll hear the sound of the choir at a good wedding or a good funeral. It'll stay with them. And a good interview, the person interviewed never forgets that they like the sound of their own voice. It came out the way they feel about themselves. And the interviewer learned. And that sustaining thing, it's unbelievable how people you've interviewed come back later and they act like really old friends. And you only had one 45-minute moment, but they never forget it. Right. I suppose, I'm looking at you because we hugged each other like we had known each other for decades, and we'd had one whopping conversation. So it's very interesting.
Okay. Awesome. So we just scroll down. I think we do have the what never to do's. Just so I like to always have the what never to do's because I'm definitely a person that does the thing you should never do. So what never to do? It's if the interview goes wrong, it's obviously never the fault of the person you're interviewing, right? If it's bad, it's your fault. Own it. You have to pursue the truth, not corner the individual. So you can corner the topic, the content, but you can't corner the individual. Back to Kemp saying, "Hey, I feel like I put you off there, but you're going after the topic." So something to be really careful of. Don't draw conclusions until you've exhausted the opposite.
I knew it. This confirms my thesis is an internal thing. There it is. I got it. Fuck. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's what then you realize, and he's the one that said, go to the opposite, right? Come in with your uncomfortable truth and find out that actually you're not on the uncomfortable truth. There's a bigger one. You have to notice.
Yep. What to fall back on when it goes sideways? I love a good fallback. Things go sideways a lot when you do bold things. The first thing is be respectful and subordinate. So go just back into the subordinate position. Take a step back. But one really easy next step that Kemp taught me, which is really brilliant, is return to the last thing you learned. So just go all the way back to the last moment you had that you learned something and just go back to that thing. It's like, leaders eating first. Let's go back there. Like just take the conversation back to the last thing that you learned and just let that drift off. And then for those here that they're like, I don't know if I can interview like that. It's just a skill. That's why we've broken it down now how to do it. Like one question, get rid of all your bad stuff. Just come to learn, I asked Kemp, how do you get good at it? And he's like, you just interview people you don't like. So there you go.
Because you're left with yourself, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh man, I can't believe I'm listening to Kemp say that. He's such a blowhard. And then you hear yourself say that and you think, who's the blowhard again here?
Yeah.
So it brings up good stuff.
So practice is like you might get interviews, you might get some counterparts, and you might get some people that aren't. And you might be like, oh my God, this person and I are never going to have the same thought about anything. And rather than saying that as a negative, just lean in and get better at the skills. It's like, where are we? I want to run the disrupt. Let's go. And so I think, if you're like, I need to get better at interviews. I've got to get, better at, understanding and how to do this. Then, start with people that you don't like.
And I would just say that the hardest thing about doing this interview is how much I like him.
Right. Yeah.
So watch the other side too. Just because we were talking about this the other day, just because, Rebecca, this is really right where you were, just because you meet someone that you share your ideas with and you feel confident with and you have a connection with, it's not the full proof of counterpart. It's a start, but in the same way with an interview, beware your own love of the person. Because you won't help them by just being appreciative.
Right. Okay. So that's how, we got asked, how do you do your interviews? This is how we do them. I hope you can take away some of these techniques and put them to work so you can enhance how you get people to the uncomfortable truth and learn from it. The next time that we're going to use this is in our shared work session after lunch. And when we kick off with our higher ed counterparts, helping them name the uncomfortable truth that their problem comes from is where we're going to start the conversation when we start shared work. So that's how it's going to connect. The next time you should do this, go to step 2, put in, when you're doing your social object, anyone can do this, anyone can apply it. We think it's fundamentally game-changing to get people to believe in things, and it's part of the practice. So if you have any questions on how you can improve who you're interviewing next, remember Kemp is here. He's our interview guru. Use him while you're here. You've got an interview coming up that you've already booked in or you haven't booked your first one. Sit down with him, tell him where you're stuck, see if you can figure it out. But thank you, and thank you, Kemp.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.